What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. 2022 has most certainly been a year for Overwatch and Overwatch 2 specifically. Looking over the past 12 months, it's genuinely fascinating to see how much has developed and happened and come about over a relatively short time frame. So much so, in fact, that I almost wasn't even sure I was gonna make this video because I was almost stun-locked with trying to figure out how exactly one goes about grappling the topic of Overwatch in 2022. But I suppose the logical method would be to start at the beginning, going back to January of 2022. I think it's safe to say that a year ago, none of us had the faintest idea where we'd be standing here today. A year ago, we didn't know that Overwatch 2 would even be launching in 2022. We had no idea what sort of content to expect to be coming with it, number of heroes, monetization system, new game modes, and whether or not the PvE would end up being there. But lo and behold, as 2022 carried on, we gradually learned more about Overwatch 2 itself, first getting the initial closed alpha where myself and many other content creators got to playtest an early version of Overwatch 2. Then during the summer, we finally got the more open access beta where people could play the Junker Queen and the other new maps that were getting added, until finally on October 4th, 2022, Overwatch 2 launched. And almost immediately, it was a catastrophe. I will say, it's always fascinating for me looking back and trying to get back into the mindset I had about something prior to some major event that happened. In this specific case, I am of course talking about the launch of Overwatch 2. And when I try to think back to even only just 6 months ago during the summer when we already knew when Overwatch 2 was going to be releasing, but didn't know the full reality of the situation just yet, I was a very different person. I was far more optimistic about Overwatch 2, far more excited about the new content and changes we'd end up getting, admittedly still a little skeptical with things like 5v5 and some of the other changes which had been announced at that point, but by and large I was really hyped for Overwatch 2 and really excited to see what would happen. And so, once Overwatch 2 did launch then, well, if you're watching this video, then I think you already know the outcome. Yeah, things weren't great. I think no matter who you are as an Overwatch fan, there was probably something about the launch of Overwatch 2 in the first couple months of the game's existence that really sort of got on your nerves. For me personally, I was really disappointed with how Blizzard handled the monetization and cosmetic system in Overwatch 2. As many of you know, back in Overwatch 1, I always enjoyed collecting all the new skins and cosmetics as they came out. Even if it was for a hero I never actually played, I always liked seeing the new artwork and skins and stuff the hero would end up getting, and I loved being able to unlock them, even if I knew I'd probably never use that skin in-game. But lo and behold, with the advent of Overwatch 2 and the new cosmetic shop and Overwatch coins, this basically became impossible for me. Sure, technically I could just buy a ton of Overwatch coins and buy everything that comes into the shop, but did I really want to do that? Was it really worth it for me to spend that much real-world money consistently in order to get every single new skin going forward? Unfortunately, no. So over the course of 2022, for me personally, I've had to sort of come to terms with the fact that the things I enjoyed about Overwatch 1 simply aren't there in Overwatch 2, whether that be the monetization structure of things or an actual aspect of the gameplay such as tank duos. I'm sure many of you saw my goodbye tank duos video I did when Overwatch 2 first launched, but honestly, as time has gone on, I've really grown to miss those tank duos. Like, I get it, I understand the direction Blizzard is going for with Overwatch 2 and the 5v5 and everything, but it is just sad to no longer have the 6v6, to not get to play Reinhardt and have your trusty Zarya as your backup. It's something I genuinely miss, and unfortunately has really hampered the experience of Overwatch 2 for me, not because I think Overwatch 2 is necessarily worse for having only one tank per team instead of the previous two, but because it's one of those things where it's like, it's a bummer. You know, I loved that in Overwatch 1, and even if Overwatch 2 works without it, I still miss that it's not really something you can do. Because sure, there's open queue where you can just run 5 tanks into the enemy 5 tanks, but that's not the same. I don't know, I don't want to get too off topic here by focusing back on the whole 5v5 tank duo thing, because Lord knows I've talked about it quite a bit in past videos, but the point I'd like to get to is that over the course of 2022, despite the fantastical and very exciting launch of Overwatch 2, It seems like for every exciting new thing we had added to the game or revealed about the franchise this year, there's been at least one thing which has devastated or disappointed us. Whether it's your disappointment in the game balance, the frequency of patches in Overwatch 2, the cosmetics, as I mentioned for myself, it seems like basically everyone at this point has something about Overwatch 2 that has really sort of irked them at this point. And already, despite the game having only been out for a few months, I think we're really starting to see the damage impact from that. Already, interest in Overwatch 2 seems to be plummeting down to numbers that it was prior to the sequel's launch, and it's only been a few months. Now, I'm sure interest in Overwatch 2 will always sort of ebb and flow. There's always going to be a bunch of interest at the start of a season where a new hero gets released, but having gone in 9 months in 2022, expecting this big, exciting resurgence of Overwatch 2, seeing it as the new phase of the game, the new revival that'll save the franchise and perpetuate it onward into the future, only to then have the following 3 months be basically just a slap in the face that confirms the opposite. Now, one thing I will mention is that in 2022, we did only actually get the PvP portion of Overwatch 2, and we still have yet to see anything new regarding the PvE side of the game, which is supposed to be launching sometime in 2023. And based off of my experiences with talking to people who do still have an interest in Overwatch, it feels like a lot of them are sort of sticking around with Overwatch 2 for the time being, with this sort of anticipation of there eventually being the PvE. Now, the PvE, of course, was sort of the major original selling point of Overwatch 2, and the reason why a lot of people were passionate about it in the first place. So I am hoping that once we finally get those PvE missions and that type of content, then we'll once again see a resurgence of players and hopefully have people stick around far longer than they seemingly are at this point with just the Overwatch 2 PvP. But of course, that is tapping into next year, and in this video I would like to focus on reflecting back on 2022 as opposed to projecting forward into the future. So what were some other major things that happened with this game over the course of the past year? Well, one of the big things, which applies to all of Activision Blizzard and not just Overwatch, is Microsoft's acquisition of the company. Now, admittedly, the acquisition hasn't gone through yet, even though it was announced almost a year ago at this point, but you know, major acquisitions like this always take a lot of time, so it's going to be a very slow process for things to actually fall into place. But it is a huge deal in terms of the direction of Overwatch and other Blizzard IPs going forward. By and large, people seem to really enjoy the way Microsoft handles many of the franchises they acquire, so hopefully we can see some massive benefits coming to Overwatch 2 and maybe even the monetization system of Overwatch 2 once that acquisition finally does end up going through. But again, that's moving on to the future, but 2022 was certainly an exciting year within the gaming industry simply because of how big a deal it was for Microsoft to buy Activision Blizzard. And the other big thing I'd like to focus on is, well, just Overwatch 2 itself, and the fact that despite all the shortcomings of the sequel and all the disappointments that have been delivered with it, it's still a mark of what's to come, which is new content. Overwatch 1, for all intents and purposes, was on life support by the end of its time, and Overwatch 2, while not tremendously greater than the original Overwatch, has at least shown thus far that Blizzard is willing to put in more effort and focus on more content additions with the content they'll be adding to it. Whether this means overpriced skins, new heroes that you have to grind halfway through a battle pass in order to simply play, or haphazard infrequent balance updates, no matter what it is, you do have to admit that, at least with Overwatch 2, we are getting new stuff. Even if only getting 3 new heroes with the launch of Overwatch 2 was a bit on the minimal side of content, we did at least get Ramatra fairly shortly after the launch of the game, and overall I think all 4 of the new heroes that we've gotten in 2022 have been pretty good for the most part, albeit maybe not the best balanced in every aspect, but hey, at least we got new heroes. It's been way too long since we had a new hero addition to the game, and so if Overwatch 2 means we're gonna finally be getting more gameplay content like this, then yeah, that's a great thing. We've also seen new map additions, which are always a fun addition as well, and even outside of the game itself, we got 2 new animated shorts in 2022. 2! That is awesome. Even if I wasn't the biggest fan of both of them in particular, I'm just excited that we're getting more story content, more animated shorts, and other content along that sort of line. It's exciting and definitely brings back a ton of fantastic memories from the early days of Overwatch 1, and is something that, you know, despite the shortcomings again, does have me excited to see what more is in store for us with Overwatch 2 going forward. And so to wrap up this video, yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about 2023. 2023 is going to be a very interesting and very decisive year for Overwatch 2. 2022 was a strange mix of massive hype building up to what could only be described as stumbling and falling down an endless flight of stairs, but now we're coming to 2023. Blizzard has had 2 Overwatch 2 seasons thus far to figure things out and learn what's not working and how to fix it, and so I'm admittedly optimistic still about Blizzard changing things and tweaking those little aspects of the game that people don't like as we go forward into 2023. Does this mean heroes are no longer going to be in the battle pass? I doubt it, but I do think we're probably going to start seeing a bit more generosity, so to say, in terms of the cosmetics and other aspects of the game that people have had issues with, and certainly there's going to be a bunch of other new gameplay content going forward. Right off the bat, during that first week of 2023, we're going to be getting the new Battle for Olympus game mode, which looks like a very fun new mode to get to try out, even if it's only for a limited time, and I'm sure there's going to be other things along that same sort of line going forward. The original Overwatch 1 seasonal events may not be super big focuses for Blizzard anymore at this point, but it does seem like they are trying to put at least some of that effort into other sorts of little things that happen throughout the new Battle Pass seasons to help keep the game fresh and exciting and give players new things to do, at least every now and again. And of course, the other major thing coming with 2023 will be the PvE. Now, I'm going to be doing a separate video talking much more specifically about the PvE in the not too distant future because there is a ton to say about that. But for the time being, I'm eager to see what Blizzard has in store for us in this regard. Admittedly, I'm not entirely optimistic about it. I think given how Blizzard sort of fumbled the launch of Overwatch 2's PvP, there's a very realistic possibility that they do the exact same thing with the PvE this coming year, but hey, we'll just have to wait and see. If anything, I think 2023 is going to be hard pressed to be worse or more disappointing when it comes to Overwatch than 2022 was, so at least we have that. It's only uphill from here, right? Oh, let's certainly hope so. Anyways, that does it for my Overwatch 2 end of year review video. I just wanted to do something a bit special to sort of celebrate the end of another year for Overwatch, and a year that was honestly pretty special considering that it featured the launch of Overwatch 2, this thing we were so massively anticipating for so long, and now it actually happened. That's just interesting to think about in retrospect. But anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on 2022 and how Overwatch did during this year, so be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, see you all next year.